Let me begin with something you know. This past weekend, Duke University's Director of Athletics, Joe Oliva, decided to forfeit last Saturday's and today's scheduled men's lacrosse games. His decision, which I knew about in advance and fully supported, was based on facts that team members had acknowledged about their March 13th party. A majority of the team members attended that party, which included underage drinking and the hiring of private party dancers. This conduct was wholly appropriate to the values of the athletic program and this university, and thus the penalty was imposed. And forfeiting 2 games we consider to be a substantial penalty for a team that hoped to compete for a national championship. Director Oliva made clear that the forfeiture was based on what had been acknowledged and that it was not a punishment for pending allegations that team members denied and that now remain unresolved. As we move past the period of the 2 forfeitures, the question arises what to do now. This afternoon, the captains of the Duke men's lacrosse team notified Mr. Oliva and myself that the team wished to suspend competitive play until the DNA results come back. I met with the captains this morning, and they expressed regret for their errors of judgment and for the embarrassment they have caused themselves, their families, the athletic program, and the university. They also repeated their denial of the criminal allegations that had been widely reported against 3 of the players. Athletic Director Oliva and I welcomed these initiatives from students. We believe that the suspension of play is the right course of action, and we also see the importance of their taking responsibility for their conduct. In a slight modification, I have decided that future games should be suspended until there is clear resolution of the legal situation. I shared this decision this afternoon with the trustees of this university, who fully supported our move. Now let me explain a little bit my own thinking about the suspension of play. Physical coercion and sexual assault are unacceptable in any setting and will not be tolerated at Duke. As none of us would choose to be the object of such conduct, so none of us has the right to subject another person to such conduct. Since they run counter to such fundamental values, the claims against our players, if verified, would warrant very severe penalties, both from the university and in the courts. This university community is based on the law of mutual respect among its members and on the part of all of us for the members of the larger community. We're all obliged to live up to the value of mutual respect because that's the only way we can create the world in which all of us can thrive. I feel these things very deeply, but there is another and different principle at stake here as well. The facts of the March 13 episode remain unclear, and there are very different accounts of the central events. No one has yet been charged by the police, and we know that many members of the lacrosse team, including some who were asked to provide DNA samples, did not in fact attend the party. To determine responsibility, we need to learn the full truth as quickly as possible. While I have urged, and while I continue to urge, everyone to cooperate with this inquiry to the fullest, unavoidably, we have to look to the Durham police to take the lead in the investigation. Duke doesn't have the power to compel testimony from citizens of this city, and Duke lacks access to warrants, DNA records, and other confidential information. I have confidence in the authorities to find the truth, and I have confidence that the authorities will take whatever legal steps are necessary in the best interests of this community. While we await the results of the investigation, I remind everyone that under our system of law, people are presumed innocent until they are proven guilty. One deep value of this that this university is committed to is protecting us all from coercion and assault. An equally central value is that we must not judge each other on the basis of opinions or strong feelings rather than on evidence of actual conduct. In this painful period of uncertainty, it's clear to me, as it was to the players, that it would be inappropriate to resume the normal schedule of play. Sports have their time and place, but when issues of this gravity are in question, it's not the time to be playing games. Thanks. Now I'll see if Mr. Oliva has something he wants to say.
Thank you, Mr. President. I completely agree with President Broadhead's statements and appreciate his tremendous leadership through this trying situation. As unsettling as it is, this has been for our entire community. Dealing with difficult circumstances is part of the educational process. In a meeting this morning, our student-athletes made it clear to us that their behavior was inappropriate and recommended the suspension of their own season until the legal process is complete. Both President Broadhead and I agree with them. Quite simply, it would not be in the best interest of the student-athletes, the coaches, or the entire university community to continue competition given the seriousness of the allegations. The Duke University Department of Athletics has always attempted to maintain the highest standards on and off the playing fields, and we will continue to do so as we move beyond the uncertainty in this current situation involving our lacrosse program. Thank you.
Questions? Raise your hand.
Are you choosing the questions?
No, you may.
Yeah, I'll start over here.
Hi, I'm Baron, North Carolina in the media. I would like to either President Broadhead or anyone else to confirm that at no time any employee of Duke University has advised the players not to speak about this event.
No employee has advised the players not to speak. Indeed, I will tell you, the first member of my staff to begin an inquiry into this episode was within 24 hours of the event itself. And I know from her that the first thing she told them was to speak fully and be honest. And indeed, I believe there has been some controversy over this question of how much students have cooperated or not. But our information is to the effect that the students gave lengthy statements in response to police inquiries even before they had lawyers present. Please.
I'm Eleanor Murray from WRBZ and WGNC Sports Radios. Just wondering what your reactions are to the outrage of some of the citizens of Durham and these candlelight vigils that they've had, and I guess they've had 3 vigils of some sort in the last few days.
How can I be surprised at the outrage? As I have said all through my remarks, if the things alleged are verified, they're outrageous. I say nothing else. After all, sexual assault, physical assault, these are not things that anyone should endure. We're talking about very serious issues. If people sat quietly while such things were alleged, it would be very, very surprising. At the same time, it's extremely important for us to remember that an allegation is not the same thing as a conviction, and that what makes it so hard for us all now is to know how to balance the outrage we properly and inevitably feel at a category event with the fact that we have to suspend our judgment because the facts are so uncertain.
President Broadhead, Mike Dunstan with ABC 11.
I see you don't wait for me to call on you.
If the students are categorically denying these allegations,
Yes?
why are they not here speaking out and saying that? I mean, wouldn't you think, a lot of people in the community have said, if you are innocent, wouldn't you be shouting from the rooftops that you're innocent?
You know, what can I say to you? I met with the students today, and I urged on them the notion that they should come forward. I was pleased to the extent that they have in their statement, given some account. All I can tell you is I have to assume that they have legal counsel, and that legal counsel has foreseen complexities associated with speaking out. It's not for me to know the situation or to judge it. One thing I want to tell you is, you and I have both seen a lot of shows on TV, and when somebody's arrested by the police or approached by the police, the first thing they're told is that they have the right to remain silent. And so I'd have to say they're exerting a right that is a very important part of our process, even if I question how good their judgment has been in exerting that right in this case. Please.
My understanding is...
You want to tell me who you are?
I'm sorry. I'm Jessica Jones with North Carolina Public Radio.
How do you do?
My understanding is that the victim who's complained to the police, or who's filed a complaint with the police, called in the early morning of the 14th. So I guess I'm assuming that the university must have heard more about this relatively soon after it happened, but it seems that the news didn't really start to come out until late last week. So I'm sort of wondering about the lag time.
Indeed.
Talk a little bit about
Indeed, and it's an obvious question. What I would say is our staff knew about this event, and the people who deal with such things had begun to speak to the coaches and players within the first 24 hours of the circumstance. One thing that I hope you will understand is that part of this story, a lot of this story is known to the police. It isn't known to us. Even now, we have no idea on the basis of what evidence did they seek the DNA samples, for instance. And what this means is that our understanding of the story has been a very partial understanding, and it's only been as we've learned certain things very obliquely and indirectly from the police that we've understood a different magnitude of the event. We had people paying attention to this and beginning our own internal inquiries all along, but after all, some time passed before we learned that 46 people were going to have DNA samples. I promise you that we have always been responding to this, but as the gravity of it has grown, we have responded at a higher level. Go ahead.
And I was also was wondering about, there were some reports that came out in the news today, and maybe, Mr. Lita, you can answer this as well, that there were some other run-ins with the law that some lacrosse players had. Some of them were offenses for having alcohol or malt liquor. And I'm just wondering if any of those things in the past raised any red flags, if there were, if that was something that you knew about.
You're looking at Mr. Oliva, but I want to answer your question.
Okay. And also,
okay.
if anything was offered, particularly in the case of alcohol, if there was any counseling.
I come down, you want to know what my life is like? I come down every morning, and before I read the national papers, I read the Durham and the Raleigh paper. And I do freshly remember opening my News and Observer and seeing an article about other charges against the players. When I turned inside, it turned out that those charges involved bad behavior, but I think of a fairly low-grade and familiar sort of bad behavior. I'm not going to pretend that we haven't had charges before over time against members of the lacrosse team, and they have all been dealt with in our usual fashions. But the charges have, they've been like drunken disorderly behavior or noisiness. Once there was a vandalism charge. But I promise you, there is not a history of behavior associated with this team that connects with the things that are alleged at this point. It's just a quantum leap in the charge. Joe?
I totally agree with President Broadhead. The incidents that you may be referring to, all were disciplined by our coaches, and they're, when you have young people, 18 to 22 years old, sometimes they're going to make some bad decisions and in judgment, and then that's what has happened.
Please.
For either of you gentlemen,
we keep needing to ask you who you.
I was just going to say I'm Ken Tishon for the Charlotte Observer.
Excellent.
Just wanted to see if you can foresee any circumstance, if worst case scenario is true, that the lacrosse program would be ended, I guess, at Duke.
Again, I should let the athletic director speak, but I will answer this first, if you will, which is only to say I just think that it would be completely inappropriate for us to respond to hypotheticals at this point. I promise you, this university takes this situation very seriously, and we will give it appropriate responses, but we don't know what response is appropriate until the facts are determined. Please.
Viv Bernstein, New York Times. It's my understanding some facts are known that there was an escort of dancers hired.
That's right.
And there was shouting, some racial epithets. Whether there's a rape or not, can you discuss the behavior that is known that the team participated in?
Well, again, we'd say our statement on Saturday indicated that the forfeiture of the games was in response to acknowledged behavior on the part of the students. It included students have acknowledged the private party dancers. They have acknowledged that there was underage drinking at the party. They have not acknowledged other things you mentioned, but I have read those in the paper, if you consider that to be conclusive evidence. I would say about it that the behavior was bad behavior, boorish behavior, immature behavior, and inappropriate behavior. But from there to what is alleged is still a very, very serious step. Please.
Paul Bonner, Herald Sun. You said it would be inappropriate to continue games. Would it not also be impractical given the situation with protests and such things?
I think that the safety of the student athlete is something to consider also in this process. And and the effect on the community and all the people involved. So it's just not appropriate to continue playing games at this point in time.
You think they could be in an unsafe situation?
I think anything's possible.
But when we say inappropriate, that's a word that covers many, many things, you know, and this is only one of the dimensions of the inappropriateness of it. Right. Please.
Jen Stansel, News and Observer.
Hello.
Will their scholarships be affected? Will they be revoked?
It's too early to decide what's going to happen because we don't know the total effect of what's going to happen with the allegations that have been made.
I think the answer to your question is the one I gave a minute ago, which is we will respond very seriously to whatever is established, but our response will be proportional to what is established, and the whole point is we don't know that yet. Please.
Ann Blythe, News and Observer. Can you explain what a forfeiture means to your team? How do
Well,
you count against your
it's a good question. You know, in intercollegiate athletics, to forfeit games does not happen very often. It's a severe penalty for a team, and it means that we simply lost the game. The other team won the game without playing, and that is a very severe penalty, and doesn't happen very often in intercollegiate athletics for disciplinary action. This is a very strong penalty of this team.
Please. Oh, sorry. Please.
Steve Barrett from Chronicle. You said you met with them today. I was wondering how would you classify that player's spirits?
I'll tell you a little about our conversation, and I do so with some reluctance because when students come to my office, I regard these conversations as confidential. If you came to my office, I would treat you to the same thing. But after all, they came in a situation that's no ordinary situation. We looked each other in the eye. This is a story in which we're all participants. They, as I say, they were eager to express their contrition for what they acknowledged they had done and for its consequences. At the same time, they were equally eager to deny to me, and they did so most sincerely, that the further and larger charges have any validity to them. Yes.
Aaron Beard with the Associated Press. For either of you, when you say suspended from games, does this include all team functions, practice, anything like that at all?
I said suspension of games. If you're a famous team, your games are what matter to you. We haven't suspended practice or anything of that sort, and I'll tell you why. I hope you infer from what I said, we have not done this as a penalty to the team, right? We have done this in view of the situation we're now in. There are questions so grave that are in the air that for us to continue to play would be inappropriate. But we have not prejudged the guilt of the team, and we're not doing this as a result of a prejudgment of the guilt of the team. It's an extremely important point to understand, and if I failed to make that clear in my statement, I'm happy to have the chance to say it again. Please, all the way in the back. But it wasn't you, it was her.
I'm Carolyn Costello from NBC 17. I have two questions. One, you said you urged the students to be here tonight.
I didn't urge the students to be here tonight. I didn't say that.
Oh, I thought you said you
No.
did. Okay. And then second part, are they deciding not to speak as a whole, as a team, or is this individual?
This is a question you'll have to address to them and not to me.
Did you meet them individually?
I met with the group of captains. I met with 3 captains of the team. And now, since I did see that other hand in the back, please.
Jim Priscilla with CBS Radio. What do you think this has done to Duke's reputation and image nationally?
Well, I can't express any enthusiasm for this event, but I'll tell you, it seems to me that events don't affect your reputation right away. It'll partly be a function of 2 things. One, as I very much hope, that our students will be cleared, right? That would have an effect. And secondly, in the unfortunate, and I hope not to be seen event in which this all turns out to be verified, I got to tell you, in my view, universities show their mettle by the way they respond to difficult circumstances, not by their absolute ability to prevent such circumstances ever happening. I hope, and you have it from me that I'll do my best to do this, that this university will continue to respond to this situation in a way that will bring us credit by the seriousness with which we take it. Please.
Lorenzo Perez, News Observer. The President brought in. How will you assess the performance of Joe Oliva and Coach Pressler in the past 2 weeks with this issue, the handling, and is there any questions raised about how?
Sure.
it's been handled?
I'll ask Joe to speak about Coach Pressler, but I'll say a word about Joe Oliva. This is a very fine athletics director, and he's a person, part of what makes him good is not just that he presides over winning teams, but that he helps bring an appropriate sense of values to his teams. I want to tell you that from the first, when we started having high-level meetings about this, I never found that Joe was arguing for weaker penalties. Actually, quite the opposite. He took this with exactly the degree of seriousness that I thought appropriate, and all along he has been in favor of upholding the larger values of the institution. And now, do you want to say something about?
Yes, Coach Pressler has handled this with understands the seriousness of this. He's been straightforward and upright, hasn't tried to conceal anything, hasn't tried to hide anything. He's dealt with it with integrity, seriousness, and like every one of my coaches, he will be evaluated at the end of the year, and we'll go from there.
Is his job at risk at this point?
He will be evaluated at the end of the year.
That's true of all coaches.
It's true of all of our coaches.
You've had your hand up a long time.
Thank you, President Ryan. Ronnie Camille from the Campus Echo, NC Central University. The victim, allegedly from the report in the News and Observer, was a NC Central student. Describe the relationship with North Carolina Central and how this incident will affect relationships between the university. And a second question to the athletic director. You've asked students to be upfront, and they have not spoken. And why is it that you have removed the list from the Go Duke, of the roster from the GoDuke.com website?
Mainly for their own safety. They are being harassed, and we felt that it was important to protect their safety and get their personal information off the computer.
But I'll come back to your question about NC Central. You know, when I was named president here 2 years ago, I came down and I got to meet a lot of people in this town, and one of the first people I met was James Ammons, who's the chancellor at Central. He and I have good relations. I have attempted to be in touch with him about this, but have not yet had my call returned, but I'm sure that's only a matter of time. I learned that the person making the charges is said to have been a student at Central. I learned that by reading the newspapers last weekend. I had no access to that information before. And I must say, as soon as I heard that, I thought to myself, your school and my school, they're not very far away. We have grants that we've gotten together for after-school programs. There's lots of attempts at cooperation, Chancellor Ammons and I went to a men's basketball game. We played against each other this fall, and it is my intention that we continue to have strong and closely collaborative relations with our two schools, and so I just want him to know how seriously I take this matter. Yes.
Like that about the Chronicle. If charges are filed against individual student athletes, will they be suspended the team resume play, or will the team continue to forfeit games until all legal matters are resolved?
What I said was that we would suspend the regular season of play until the major legal issues are resolved. How they will be resolved and what will be the appropriate step to take when they are resolved, time will unfold.
So resolved, do you mean the entire judicial process, or?
I think that all I can tell you is we're working our way forward in a situation none of us have a lot of experience in, and all I can tell you is at a certain point we'll know that the uncertainty has been reduced in some way or another, such that it seems appropriate to resume play, or it won't be, and then we'll continue with the suspension of play. Yes.
Taylor Darby.
I know.
The Chronicle. Hello. In the captain's statement, it says that they have denied the allegations. It also says that the DNA results will demonstrate these allegations are absolutely false. I'm curious, in your meeting with them, any administrators meeting with them, or any conversations you know of, have they denied sex of any kind with the alleged victim, consensual, paid for, anything other than rape? Because it seems that...
The answer to that is yes.
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 President Rothhead, it's a little ironic that this news comes right after the university announced that it was going to buy some houses surrounding the campus in an effort to try to create a quieter atmosphere.
I noticed that.
And so I just was wondering what you thought about that. Also, if the university was thinking of taking any more steps to put more of that kind into action.
You know, there are many places in the world where mixed neighborhoods work very well, different kinds of people, different ages of people, you know, and the difference becomes a source of pleasure. I've lived in such places, and perhaps you have as well. To the extent that the phenomenon of a mixed neighborhood is exemplified by the streets alongside of Duke's East Campus, it hasn't worked very well. There's been too much complaint. People aren't hostile to students, but too much of the life of students has caused noise, has caused irritation of one sort or another. This went on to the point and reached such a level that I thought that it would be good for us to do something about it. This university has a pretty strong history of working to stabilize neighborhoods in the city of Durham, and it would have been a great shame to see that neighborhood, people to begin to move out of it because of the kind of things you had to put up with if you lived there. When Duke decided to purchase the houses, it was never our intention to own them, nor was it our intention to profit on the sale of them. It was to turn them around and sell them to people who would fix them up, putting covenants in that they'll be occupied by single families and by those who owned them. It is an irony that we now own the house in which this took place, but that's an accident of the timing 2 weeks before, and that would not have been true. All I can say is no event of the last 2 weeks has persuaded me that our view about what to do in the houses in this neighborhood was a bad idea. Yeah.
Aaron Beard, Dave Deegan. Joe, how difficult a situation has this been for you to deal with in all your time in athletics?
It's by far the most difficult. The allegations are very serious, not just for all 46 of those athletes, for our coaches, for our entire athletic department. It permeates through our whole athletic department. So it is by far the most difficult thing I've ever had to deal with.
Here's somebody I haven't called on yet. Please.
Paul LeBron, Channel 5. I'm just wondering, would you have made this decision to suspend the season if it weren't for the public outcry? How much of this is a PR move and how much of it is actually based on your own reasoning?
The public outcry and our own moves are provoked by the same situation. And so to that extent, they can't be separated. But I'd have to say, we don't have some barometer out there trying to figure out if we can get away with continuing to play the season. We've taken a pretty bold step. You can look through the history of intercollegiate sports, and you will find that what I say is true. Our thought was just that, you know, I said it in my last sentence here, and I mean it most sincerely. You know, sports have their time and place, but when questions of this sort are in the air, it's not the time to be playing games. I already got you before. Yes, please, right behind.
Another question. On our 6 o'clock news, there was, and I don't know whether you've heard these tapes, there were 911 calls from people who were passing by. They called 911. There were African-American women, one in particular, who said that people were yelling at her, calling her the N-word. What I want to know is a lot of community leaders think...
Pardon me, these are tapes from the night of the party?
From the night of the party.
Okay, this is the first I've ever heard of this.
Watch our news tonight at 11. We'll have tapes. No, I mean, I know you've been busy, so I don't mean any disrespect. But I guess the question I have is, some people in the community, including the NAACP director for North Carolina, have asked for a meeting with you, and also a suspension of some of the team captains. Is there a culture of racism within the team? That's what people are wondering. That's for you or for
I have heard such things said. Things that have been reported in the paper have raised the question. Joe Oliva is closer to the athletes than I am myself, and so I'll take your question in response to the university as a whole, if you're willing. You know, I'm a recent arrival in this town, and one of the things that actually makes it quite fun when you move to Durham is it's a place that has a very lively white community and a very lively African American community. I'm happy to have friends and significant parts of my life in connection with both of them. It's the nature of race that when any place where race is a fact, you know, if you tell me that there's a place where race is an utterly unproblematic phenomenon, I'll tell you you're from a different planet than the one I live on, right? Any place where race is a fact, things follow from it. Good things, but also certain kinds of friction. And those things have a certain history here, to be sure. What I'd have to say is, you know, I have a group called the President's Council on Black Affairs, made up of faculty, students, administrators, graduate students, all kinds of people. We have the liveliest discussions, you know, very frank, no holds barred discussions about about what their experience on this campus is like. And I'd have to say, I think that such people feel themselves to be valued members of this place. And I'll tell you, if you ask me about it, they certainly are valued by me. Now, you asked about a culture of the team, and so
I have seen no evidence. Over the years, I've been in Duke Athletics for 26 years. I've seen no evidence of any racial problems with the lacrosse team, or frankly, any of our teams. So I haven't seen any evidence of that.
Did any of the players who were meeting with you, President Broadhead or you, Mr. Oliva, did they mention anything about racial slurs or epithets?
it wasn't part of my conversation this morning.
You didn't ask them about that, even though it was reported in the paper?
We talked about a lot of things. Yes.
Lorenzo Perez, News Observer again. Mr. Oliva, President Broadhead correctly pointed out in terms of past citations against lacrosse players, there were no felonies or anything like that. But at the same time, you have almost a third of the roster that's been cited or charged with an alcohol-related charge. Doesn't that speak to some type of culture or raise a red flag in terms of the alcohol is a problem?
It is a subject that we have addressed with the team. It is a subject that we have had people from the university address with the team about their conduct and behavior. I do not believe that those incidences, as the President has said, has any correlation with the severe allegations that are made in this case.
Many, many things in university life are aggravated by the presence of alcohol. Talk to anybody at any university, and you will learn the truth of that. You know, at the same time, the presence of alcohol doesn't guarantee that really bad things happen thereafter, although it can make the road easier. Nor does it prove in this case that such things did happen. I've cut on you so many times already. Yeah.
Yeah, Paul Ron from Herald Sentinel. What was your response to the team captain's expression of contrition?
I was happy to hear it. I wish that this had been more broadly heard. I'll have to tell you that you know, my message to these people, you know, these are my students, right? They are students of mine as much as anyone else at this place is a student of mine. But you know, it's a painful situation to be in a room and not know whether someone is innocent and thus a victim of you know, a charge that does them an unfair ill, or the perpetrator. My thought about this is that all of us have a serious obligation. You know, as I say, my feeling about this whole thing is we have to be able to take seriously this category of offense. You know, there's no joke about such things. These are, you know, deep human issues, and we have to take them seriously. At the same time, we also have to take seriously our obligation not to reach conclusions about what people have done without the evidence being there. We need the investigation to come to the end of this story. Yes. I'm sorry.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about what you're hearing from people on Duke parents, prospective students, and how this might be affecting, you know, the university's recruitment of students for next year and that kind of thing.
I can only generalize. I've talked to a number of people, and I'm sure there are many, many more. I think that everyone is surprised and saddened to have this story be in our midst, and everybody is eager for it to be resolved. Again, I think, though, you know, that the measure of Duke going forward will be the seriousness and appropriateness of our actions in the face of what we learn through the investigation. Yeah, you're the one. Sorry.
Sharif with Charlotte Observer.
Right.
You have talked about athletic punishments in not playing these games, and I wonder if you considered any academic punishments or suspension of any academic activity.
Yeah, but please remember that I tried to make emphatically clear that the suspension of the season is not a punishment. It is a judgment of the inappropriateness of playing under these conditions of uncertainty. It's not that we have decided that these people have done the wrong they're accused of and are therefore punishing them for it. In such a circumstance, to have reached the level of academic punishments or anything of that sort, you know, that's putting the cart before the horse. We need to find out what happened, and only when that is established will we know what the correct response is. Sarah.
I have a similar question about recruitment for Mr. Oliva. I was curious how this has affected any sort of recruiting for the lacrosse
I think, again, it's going to be decided upon how the allegations pan out. And I think that if they're innocent, then I think recruiting will go on and it'll be okay. And we'll just have to see how it happens as it plays out.
Have any recruits called expressing concern, asking to speak with you about the situation?
No, not yet.
I'm sorry, there's a hand behind it. I apologize to you for the fact that I didn't see your hand. Please.
That's okay. Simone Parker, 22.
Okay.
I know it was mentioned earlier that some of the players, their names have been removed from the website.
Mhm.
Now, I also know that it's been reported that 3 of the men's lacrosse team players moved out of the house where the alleged rape happened.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
I believe that that's true.
Is this due to any form of harassment that they were experiencing, or?
You know, you're going to have to ask them. I'm sorry to say. I think the experience of my impression is, I only know this third or fourth hand, my impression is that the experience of the last several days has made them think that it would be better for them to live somewhere else for a while.
So this was their own decision, not?
It certainly was not ours. Okay. Yes.
Member on North Carolina Intermediate. Is Duke planning on instituting any sort of mandatory sexual harassment and racism seminar for athletes or for the general student population?
Well, in truth, you know, we really do lots of discussions of those things. And don't forget, you don't just want to have a mandatory seminar such that somebody attends it once in their life and then you're done with that and then you go about and never pay any attention to it again. We want to, you know, use every occasion to raise these subjects and make them sources of education. I was interested to find that Sue Wasilek, who's one of the deans here, meets regularly with many teams and has met this year with the lacrosse team to talk about issues of sex, issues of alcohol, issues of responsibility, issues of consent, all kinds of things. I was very, very happy to hear that. And obviously, this is a good thing to do and to continue. I must say that an episode like the current one also, for all its difficulties, you know, a university isn't different from the rest of the world in that the difficulties of human life are absent from universities. At best, a university is different from the rest of the world in that when those difficulties are present, there's a chance to raise them to discussion and use them as a source as a source for education. You know, we speak to everybody about these issues the first week of freshman orientation, but a week like this is one when it seems to me people are going to be much more aware of the reality of what sexual assault and physical coercion mean. As I believe this is also a week when the trite phrase about innocent until proven guilty will have to be thought about and pondered much harder as we, you know, because now we're living in the middle of these. You know, we're living in a situation of moral difficulty. That's all there is to say about it. And there's no simplifying the difficulty. We have to, you know, until we learn the truth.
One more question.
Please, you then I think.
I'm just wondering what you can tell us about, to the athletic director, the character of these young men. I mean, throughout the time you've known them, what are they like? What are their values?
These are really outstanding student athletes. Over the years, we have a 100% graduation rate of our lacrosse players. We have over 30 of them on the ACC honor roll for academic achievement. They're outstanding student athletes, and they're wonderful young men. And as I said earlier, unfortunately, they're young men, and sometimes young men make bad decisions, make some bad judgments, and that's what this whole incident's about. It's making a bad judgment.
When you ask about character, one thing I would want to say is, if there are 46 members on this team, you got to figure that even if, you know, we find that some are responsible for some things, the notion that everybody is equally culpable, you know, it's just part of the mystery. It's one of the things we'll learn as the investigation establishes the truth of things.
Okay, thank you all very much.